so I watched the new trailer of the new A Plague Tale game, and I have been watching some gameplay footage Asobo has uploaded in various channels, as well as some early reviews, and I have mixed feelings regarding this new entry. The gameplay looks fine. It's like Prince of Persia, platforming, puzzles and melee combat, which is fine. I like this type of gameplay very much, and melee combat is the main reason I have always preferred Prince of Persia over Tomb Raider because, long story short, I'd rather wield a sword over a gun in video games. The one thing that I would say regarding the gameplay that I've seen so far is that this game could use more time in the oven. It's not looking bad, and keep in mind that this footage is old, but if they're showing it, it is because they are sufficiently confident that it is presentable. Again, it's not looking bad, but the animations are still too rigid and could use more polish. Look at this guy's overhead swing. 20-year-old games had better overhead swinging animations than this game, and don't give me the AA excuse because another AA game that was made 10 years ago and with less than 20 developers had far superior animations than this new game, so don't give me that excuse. Now, enough about gameplay. Let us get into the real meat of this video, because what really bewilders me regarding this game and this entire franchise, more than choppy animations or lackluster gameplay or whatever, is how Asobo Studio are constantly retconning their story and characters. If Sophia, the protagonist of this new game, had been as capable in Requiem as she seems to be in Resonance, then Requiem would have been a very different game, story-wise and gameplay-wise. I mean, Arno was the warrior in that game, and even he couldn't take down more than 2 enemies at once without being overwhelmed. If there was a character that better fitted the combat gameplay, it was him, not Sophia. Sophia was a stealth character in both story and gameplay. A scoundrel that survives through wit and grit, more than bronze. If she was always this capable, why didn't it show in Requiem? It would have been quite helpful, in fact. Every time I was being surrounded by ferocious guards, up, right, left, down and center, why couldn't Sophia fight them off then? This game, Resonance, once again proves that Asobo Studio is afraid of stepping out of the A Plague Tale brand. It's alright if they want to make a game like Prince of Persia with a more complex combat system and platform puzzles. We need games like that. Prince of Persia is in a very nebulous position as of now. The Sands of Time remake was cancelled, and their best games in quite a long time are 2D Metroidvanias and roguelikes that, good as they are still niche. The last Uncharted game was a decade ago, and we still have to see if the new Tomb Raider will revive the franchise or plummet it back to its grave for 10 more years. So, a game that fills that space is necessary at this point. But why use Sophia to do this? Why put this game within the A Plague Tale universe in the first place? This shows that it's not only the AAA studios the ones that are afraid of taking risks. Ever since Innocence came out, Asobo Studio have been milking this franchise to the last drop of milk. Why are we using Sophia's character to tell a swashbuckling adventure when she was far from a swashbuckler herself? Why are we retconning the entire character to tell yet another Macula story? Because that is exactly what this is. According to the things that I've read and heard about this game, the overall idea is that Sophia is, for all terms and purposes, macula sensitive. It so happens that Sophia earlier in her life had the same macula marks in her left arm like any other carrier, and she is having these visions of a Minoan warrior that belonged into some sort of cult that worshipped a Minotaur, who will most probably be related to the macula somehow. Very much like the visions Hugo had of the Phoenix Bird in Requiem, and naturally she is trying to find a cure for her illness. The obvious thing is that Sophia will survive, because this is a prequel. She must find a cure for her illness, for otherwise she would die, and this begs the question, if she already knew about a cure, Why didn't she open her mouth in the second game? How is it possible that she couldn't recognize that Hugo is suffering a similar illness to the one she had years before and offer them the same solution that saved her life? What's the excuse? Amnesia? Will she bump her head against the rock at the ending of this game and forget everything to justify why she couldn't open her mouth in Requiem? It's almost like Sofia is a different character now. Urasawa Studio is hellbent on making me hate all of its characters.
All of it sounds like a crazy fantasy to me.
What made Sofia interesting in Requiem was that she was a complete outsider. She didn't know a thing about the macula or the carriers. She had never seen a boy summon rats before in her life, what inevitably startles her when she first witnesses Hugo doing a sosh. The character is a complete outsider. She remains with the siblings because she feels motherly concern towards Hugo and big sisterly sympathies towards Amicia and her plights. She didn't stay because she had lived through something similar before, because it reminded her of something in her past. Unlike the prequel, Sofia in Requiem never comes forth as a person with a quest. She is a survivor, first and foremost, and she finds a semblance of purpose in helping the siblings during the course of the game. If Asobo Studio wanted to make a Macula prequel, then Aelia and Basilius were the obvious choice here. I've been pitching this prequel story since the second game because both Amicia and Hugo look and behave so differently in that second game that they might as well be different people. Aelia and Basilius were the perfect characters to tell the story of Requiem without changing the personalities of the characters and the story establishing innocence. The same goes for Resonance. If it's all about the macula again, then Aelia and Basilius are, once again, the obvious choice. If they are going for Sofia, however, then make something different. Give us more of her character, not the macula, because by doing so you're changing too much. Sofia was never related to the macula. How is it that she is now, in a prequel? The storyline in these games is a mess. Each game retcons the one that came before. The idea of a Plague Tale Innocence was that, in a nutshell. Even the Antichrist could be redeemed in the right hands. The carrier is a force of nature that can do good in the right hands or can become a weapon of destruction in the wrong hands. That is what Amicia and Vitalis stand for. Vitalis is the negative influence that weaponizes Hugo, Amicia the positive influence that redeems him and thus ushers him to cure the plague. In Innocence, the alchemists were also a force of good. They embodied the transformative power of science and knowledge that battles the oppression of the Dark Ages Christianity that Vitalis embodies. This dark oppressive power that ruled the world for 1,000 years with an iron fist, and before anyone gets upset, this is historical fact, I didn't invent this. Beatriz spent years looking after her son and building a cure, a work that Amicia and Lucas finish in the present when Beatriz is supposedly dead. In Innocence, we are told that there is never a sufficiently powerful force of evil without having an equally powerful force of goodness to counter it. It was a beautiful story that for once celebrated motherhood, femininity, and fraternal love, without perverting it like most other stories do. It was a very compelling story that portrayed the darkness of the human nature as much as the bright sides. But then arrives the second game and retcons the first game by villainizing the alchemists, portraying them as a bunch of weirdos that enjoy torturing children in secret lab rooms, and by presenting Beatriz as a submissive bimbo that is completely okay with the weirdos. The game goes a step further by saying that the carrier cannot be saved, unlike the first game, that the sister is more of a bad influence than a good one, unlike the first game, and that the only way to solve this problem is by killing the carrier because there was never a cure in the first place. So the game is basically telling us that science and knowledge are useless and that the mother and sister were always the real villains of the story. Great job, Asobo Studio. This is the type of snappy, cynical writing that you would expect from a guy like Rian Johnson. Great job. And now we have Resonance, which is telling us that there is, in fact, a cure. because otherwise Sophia would be dead and we met a ghost in Requiem, which is obviously not the case. And even if Sophia turns out to have another type of disease, what a coincidence that there was a cure for Sophia's disease and none for Hugo's. So alchemy is working again, it seems, or the human spirit, which is funny considering that the second game did nothing but beat its protagonist to the ground the entire story, rendering her useless by the end. Alchemy didn't work, goodwill didn't work, the human spirit didn't work, maternal love, sisterly love, none of that worked either. But in Resonance it will. I mean, it has to, because Sophia has to survive. Oh, Asobo, the one studio that can get away with discrepancies and mediocrities and still be hailed as masterclass writers. Good lord. This reminds me of a post that I read a few years ago after finishing Requiem. In that post, the person described all the problems of doing a sequel to Requiem, because we already know what happens to the carrier. So if another carrier dies, it's going to be predictable, but if a carrier is saved, then it's unfair to Hugo's character. It's a similar situation now. Why is Asobo Studios stuck with a Plague Tale? Why can't they move on and create something new? And even if they stick with a Plague Tale, why is it always the macula? Sophia could have well been a breath of fresh air, but instead this is lining up to be more of the same shit that will contradict Requiem, like Requiem contradicted Innocence. This is without saying that I am not a huge fan of Sophia's appearance in this game either. I don't like that she has the same bland, meek expression that Amicia had in Requiem. I never liked Amicia's character design in that game. She never conveyed the same energy that she conveyed in Innocence. In Innocence, Amicia is perfectly balanced because she conveyed sweet gentleness and genuine care for her family and friends while expelling what at times could feel like an unsettling determination to defend them. Amicia in Innocence even had a Michael Corleone moment in which she kills Conrad, looks at her hands and realizes she is not trembling. This is a stark contrast to her portrayal and character design in Requiem, in which she supposedly looks stronger and more determined, but in reality comes forth as weak and insecure. She is constantly trembling, she is constantly stammering and stumbling on her feet. She doesn't have the same dark determination of her Innocence counterpart, but also fails in the sweet and gentle department. There is smugness in her face. Somehow she looks hypocritical and at times outwardly annoyed when dealing with her brother. One of the moments that better exemplify what I am saying is the moment in each game in which Amicia hugs Hugo. In the first game, she hugs him wholeheartedly, burying her face on his baby shoulder and shaking him to console him. In the second game, she doesn't hug him. He hugs her, and she doesn't even acknowledge him. She looks detached, almost bored, and her hands remain on his shoulder to easily push him away instead of fully embracing him as she did in Innocence. Look at this scene comparison, and you will quickly notice what I am saying. You know a person is feigning affection when they smile, but the eyes remain cold. Amicia in Innocence had very expressive eyes, expressing so many emotions without saying a single word, or using a clear, visible smile. In Requiem, she is supposedly more expressive, with better mock-up technology and clear, visible smiles, but her eyes carry no emotions. She cries, of course she does, but tears do not guarantee sincerity. And if you look carefully at how the character behaves and reacts at her brother, what you will see in her eye expression is detachment, condescendence, and full-blown annoyance towards her brother. Imagine then my horror when seeing the same bland, detached yet smug expression in Sophia's face. To me, that's the biggest red flag so far, one that warns me that the character will lack the confidence and elegance that made her appealing in her first game. I have seen some of that confidence in the footage that they've shown so far, mainly in the way the actress is doing the role, which is the same actress from Requiem by the way. I just hope enough of Sophia's personality translates into the script of this prequel. Acting aside, it's so much the heavy lifting an actor can do to elevate a badly written story after all. And I also hope that the game allows the character to shine instead of subjugating her as they so often did with Amicia in Requiem. That game hated Amicia. There was always someone in there to outtalk her, outsmart her, outmaneuver her. I am also not a fan of the supporting cast. I don't like that friend of hers that came out of nowhere, Lenny, the ginger one that has the same stupid expression of Requiem Amicia. I know what they're going for. They want to create Sophia a friend that looks like Amicia as to justify Sophia sympathizing so much with her in Requiem, but I don't think that's necessary. It's okay to sympathize with people and just that. Not every person that you like reminds you of another person that you liked before. I am also not a huge fan of the guy that we see in the trailer, the one that Sophie is arguing with. This will most likely be this game's overpowered man boss, whose sole purpose is to maintain the female upstart in her place. No doubt we will have plenty of gratuitous beat-up scenes like the many we had in Requiem. Yay! It seems as if they're turning Sophia into another angry loser that argues with authority figures for the sake of it. You can hear her say things like, "I found the island. My father and you need me. I have proven myself." And most probably, the overpowered man boss will not stand for that crap and will most likely put her in her place in another scene of quick time events that will completely go against the skills the character has in the gameplay, but we are supposed to believe this crap because it is part of the brilliant story that Asobo Studio, masters of writing, are cramming down our throats again. Good lord. I'm getting some serious deja vus here. No, Requiem all over again. Horror. Stop, please, stop. Just make it stop, please. Please, someone take me out of this misery, please. Sophia wasn't like this in Requiem. She wasn't argumentative. She was clever. A silver-tongued scoundrel that could confuse people with a few well-placed words. Her unassuming, laid-back personality was her way of masking shrewd observancy. Her colorful attire and excessive jewels the perfect way to conceal a dagger. She is the perfect stealth protagonist, smart, cunning, and streetwise, never picking fights but striking fast and mercilessly when she was forced to. These are some of the things that made the character interesting. But instead of exploring how Sophia turned into this cunning survivor, we're portraying her as a macula sensitive that practices combat with female Yoon Hoo-sun and challenges male authority figure head-on with hot temper and too much to prove. This is not looking good. Now, I am pretty sure that many of the things that I fear will not happen in this game. Asobo Studio will most likely prove me wrong and make another banger of a masterpiece that will shake the foundations of the world for 2 days before the numerous other games that are lined up for this year come out to take the spotlight. Cynicisms aside, I haven't fully discarded the game yet. Like I said to one of my most enthusiastic viewers some time ago, I am currently on a 50-50 with this franchise, and this new game will raise one of those sides to a 75%. However, there are still some red flags here that worry me, like Sophia's portrayal, the supporting cast, the threat of yet another retcon of the story and lore, and of course the janky gameplay that merits another year in the oven. I don't think this game is ready for prime time. It looks too rough. But all of that aside, this game looks too derivative of previous games. The first 2 games were the same thing. They were The Last of Us without the polish, but at least we had Hugo elevating the games, hiding their crevices. This third game is looking like God of War, but once again without the polish, and this time we don't have Hugo to set up stakes that we actually care about. When watching the trailers or the reviews or the rough gameplay footage, I find myself drifting away and thinking about that new Onimusha game, which is looking so badass. Or the Mortal Shell 2 demo that I've also been enjoying so much. I find myself thinking about the Code Veronica remake, which might set itself as the best Resident Evil game yet, with the coolest and hottest Claire Redfield ever, who didn't kill Sherry in RE2, and is now the protagonist of a sibling story that will not culminate in the death of one of the two siblings. I have realized that I am not hyped for this new A Plague Tale game. I am more hyped for Hellblade 3, and that one is coming next year, if at all. I am more hyped for Stellar Blade 2, and that one has no clear release date yet. I am more excited for Blood Message, a game that is doing exactly the same thing as Resonance, but with 100 times more polish, and you can bet your ass the father is not going to kill his son at the ending, unlike some other character that I know. Like I said, I haven't discarded Resonance entirely, but I just don't want to play this game. I am not as invested in this franchise as I used to be years ago. I remember when I first watched that Sean Bean trailer years ago. The tears were rolling, the hairs on my neck were on point. It was pure magic. The moment I had the money, I was buying the game. But that magic is long gone. I just don't care for a prequel story about a hapless pirate and a girlfriend with unisex name. Simply said, I miss Hugo. I haven't forgiven Asobo Studio for killing him the same way I haven't forgiven Naughty Dogs for killing Joel. And the thing about modern gaming is that you don't have to forgive a bad game or a studio that has burned you in the past when there are so many other great games to choose from. Games that can easily fill the hole left by the bad game or studio. Formulas are replicable, and studios easily replaceable nowadays. You're not liking Resonance? Then play Blood Message or Onimusha Way of the Sword. These are cinematic sword combat games as well, with 100 times the polish and a more interesting story and characters. Or play Black Flag Resynced. That game also has pirates and mysteries, and also a very similar combat system to Resonance, with better animations, a better protagonist that didn't kill his daughter or his son, a better story, superior parkour and stealth mechanics, or just wait a few more months and you can play Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis for the ultimate world-trotting adventure. You don't like The Last of Us Part 2? Don't worry about it. Play Days Gone instead. Deacon is cooler than both Abby and Ellie, and in that game you have the bike and the hordes, something The Last of Us never had. If not, then choose from the plenty of Resident Evil games. Why suffer through Abby's sections when you can play as the coolest zombie killer ever in RE9 and quite a few other games in the franchise? And bear in mind that Leon is not the only cool character in that franchise, so you have options within the same franchise. You see what I mean? Nowadays, we don't have to stick to a particular game or studio like Moonies because there is always an alternative, and we haven't the time and the money to consume all. So we have to choose, and I'm so tired of choosing bad games. Or to be fair, good games that I don't like because of brand loyalty. Like I said, I haven't fully discarded Resonance, but I'd be lying to myself and my audience if I said that I am excited for it, because I am not, and so far nothing that I have seen has sparked my interest. I am tired, mentally exhausted because of personal life, and I'm also physically exhausted. The rain drought and excessive heat that happens this time of year are killing me. I'm thirsty, I'm growing dizzier by the second, I have to find some water and get some rest, and once I feel better, I should play something that makes me happy and not miserable. Something like Code Veronica. Yeah, I'm playing that game. And the video is going to be good and certainly more uplifting to make and watch than this one. It's not going to be the next one. The Jedi video will probably come first, but it's in the lineup, so stick around for that one if you want, and yeah. Stay safe, and show your brother some love because he probably needs it. I'm out. Bye for now.